Look, the only thing in common between 22-year-old me and 15-year-old me is I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
I gotta get into the Noah spirit. Hello and welcome. I'm Wernissage of the channel Wernissage, and I'm joined by my friends Alyx and Neo, brought together by our shared love of Halo. But do not let that But do not let that fool you, for we will try and likely fail to talk about anything but Halo, because this is not a Halo podcast. And where the fuck is Noah? Because I can't find him.
I think
he said he's lost in a Halo ring or something.
he went and fucked off to the Ark. That's not even a Halo joke, I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess we're holding the fort till he gets back.
So yeah, I'm actually not Noah, even though it kind of sounded like it. I'm a Swedish Noah. But yeah, we're three pals this time. Wern, Alyx, and Neo, and we're gonna try and do the podcast without our
Glorious host.
our leader. Yeah,
The guy that organizes the whole thing, and yet once he was like 30 or 40 minutes late to his own show.
Oh yeah, it was.
Good times. Good times.
Good times.
But he's still the guy that makes everything run. Well, half of the team that makes everything really run.
He is, and we love him. He's meeting him has been awesome, and like working on sort of this project with everyone has been a really cool experience, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Mm-hmm. Except maybe I could wake up a little bit later, that would be nice, but oh well, we all have to make sacrifices in the industry, is what I'm told.
You want to share your problem with time?
Yes, yeah. So the last episode, which I think Wern couldn't make it to, so it ended up just being Noah, myself, and Alyx. Not sure exactly what happened, but my usual time that I come on, Alyx and Noah were already conversing, and apparently they started like half an hour earlier. I thought it was daylight. If I'm understanding correctly, daylight savings like switched over in the States. So
Yep, 1 hour spring forward.
yeah, now as of last week, it's an hour earlier, which means I, instead of joking about getting up at 5, I actually have to get up before 5. So that's great. And then this week, in kind of anticipation of what happened and to make sure it wouldn't happen again, I tried to like organize it so that everybody records an hour later, which everyone was on the same page about that, but I must have screwed up my maths along the way, because instead of doing an hour before my normal time, we've now all started doing it an hour after my normal time. So I got up an hour and a half early for no reason, and I've just been like going through my second coffee now to try and stay awake.
Nice.
But we all made it here, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I could barely keep up, but that's time is a messy thing. Our brains cannot understand.
Oh yeah.
You guys are honestly troopers for keeping up with all the time zone differences, since you're dealing with a bunch of Americans that are basically just a few hours apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the world doesn't actually revolve around you guys, believe it or not.
Yeah, I know, it's
Wow.
crazy.
Oh my god.
I mean, I was
It's
just...
like, once you learn that as an American, that's just like something you're always acutely aware of.
That could be something that...
Yeah.
Because I was talking to... I mentioned it a little bit to Wern before we recorded, but, I'm a strong advocate for... Fuck time zones. We shouldn't have time zones. We should just have, just being aware of, like, everyone's locations. But I think it could actually be better in the world if different time zones didn't exist and everybody just followed Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Time or whatever, kind of like everybody follows one clock, but then we just acknowledge that the sun is in different positions around the world.
Exactly. And something important, we all use like the same, like how you write time, like how you read it, because I like the last year I've learned like how AM and PM works. I never understood that before, because we just go by
24 hour.
I think it's like like a military clock.
Yeah,
like 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like we have
Like it goes since 13 and 14, 15, all the way to 24.
yeah, like when like we say it's 7 o'clock, then we mean like 7 in the evening, which is 19.
Yep.
Like written down. So we usually just say 19. But then this whole PM and AM thing comes along, and I was like, what the fuck's this? But now I kind of prefer it, so I just wish we all.
Well, it's like shorthand,
AM
right? You don't
and
have to
PM.
do anything in your head because the AM or the PM just kind of clarifies it for you immediately.
Yeah, because we always have to say like 7. Oh, in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, could you imagine if like, you have like corporate meetings between like all these, fancy millionaires across the world. Maybe it's like an Illuminati thing. It's like, oh, hey Sam, what time are we having the meeting for world domination? 5. Is 5 my time zone? No, fuck you. It's 5 everywhere. See, that would be great. Everybody just has the meeting at 5. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. I think that would actually be the superior way to do things.
I haven't had time to think about this, but I kind of like the idea.
Yeah, like
so,
everybody gets a 24-hour clock.
Yeah, we just get used to our, like, when we usually go to work. Like, that's not going to be the same time as you.
Yeah, AM and PM go away. Everybody has their own schedules based on location, not based on, time and location. I think that would actually genuinely be a good move. I kind of understand we can't do it because the infrastructure's already been in place for like a century now. It would kind of just like make everything just really stressful until everybody adapted to it.
But if we restart society,
we
nuke each other.
If we restart
nuke each
society,
other up and just start over.
If I'm allowed to put an extra commandment in there, the extra commandment will be everybody uses the same 24-hour clock. Solve so many problems.
Most important thing.
And then we're just always aware of what position the sun is for different people.
Yeah, exactly. You could just be like, oh yeah, I should tell my friend the thing. Oh, but it's, he's sleeping at the moment because he's on X side of the world. Oh, well, I'll wait till later. But,
Yeah.
His time is actually still the same. That just makes so much more sense to me.
Yeah, like it's kind of proof that it's a good change, because the only problem I can come up with so far is like imagine in like a song or something. Like you write a song, and Neo, you write a song obviously in English, and you say something like oh, it's 8 o'clock and I just woke up.
True.
Americans and Englishmen are not gonna understand that, because like, what the fuck? That's not morning.
I guess we'll just have to think of some more creative songwriting lyrics then. Challenge our brains a bit to think of something better than 8 o'clock. Probably also a good change in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is an interesting subject. But now, the most interesting subject of all, Bev check.
Bev check.
Since Noah's not here, what are we all drinking? Alex.
I always have a coffee, same as usual. I mean,
Of course.
honestly, because of the show and because of other stuff I have going on, I'm starting to be incentivized to get like an espresso machine or something in my room.
Word.
Yeah.
Just to keep me awake.
What was it, your third coffee?
Yeah, it's like my third coffee today.
I'm on my second now. I actually didn't put coffee in the first drink. The first drink was just hot chocolate because I was like, it'll taste really good and that'll wake me up.
That's nice.
I nodded off like twice while listening to music, waiting for the podcast to start. So I actually put coffee in this one. But I already drunk it.
Oh no.
Unfortunately.
Well, I have my type of coffee. I've got a orange, carrot, and ginger smoothie.
Ooh.
Which is really
That
nice.
tastes really good.
Gets me up at morning. Yeah, it's like sometimes it's even chili in some of them. Not the Master Chief chili.
Ah, yes,
just like the chili pepper.
It's kind of funny how effective chili can actually be in sort of like, not savory in the way you'd expect them, but they can actually kind of add a bit of flavor to like fruity and sweet stuff. And
yeah,
sometimes it doesn't
just
work.
Makes it. Yeah, to me it kind of like expands the flavors. Like you feel flavors like further down your tongue or something. I don't know. It's weird, but it's.
We're on webcams right now, and I'm
really
watching
nice.
Wern just like wave his hands back and forth among his cheeks. But yeah, no, I get
Look
you.
down my right into there.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Just one tangent before we move on. Talking about chili. I took a coffee. Well, I didn't take coffee. With a friend the other day, and she really wanted to remind you because she actually listened to the podcast. She saw my Instagram story. She was like, "Okay, I'm gonna listen to it," and she kind of liked it until we started talking about Halo. That's nice.
Oh,
But she did want to correct me because I said something wrong about sweets. I said we didn't have chili. Apparently, we do have chili, but I never liked it. It's chili con carne, or however you say it. We say chili con carne.
So we've got that too. And I was
okay.
making I was going to make Master Chief chili, and then I kind of like, it was like 9 in the evening because I've been real busy with uni, and from what I can gather with the chili recipe, you kind of have to prepare it like a lot earlier in the day because you're supposed to like slow cook it, and then you got to, throw it in the fridge before you actually eat it. I kind of ran out of realistic time in the day, and also it was the last day the meat was like good and stuff. So I ended up making chili con carne instead. Which was delicious, but I think with like, I guess chili, it's supposed to be much more of like a soup. Chili con carne we made, it kind of ended up just turning it more into like, throwing it into some burritos and melting cheese over the top of it in the oven, and then just kind of having that instead of the planned chili recipe, which was also really good. So maybe that can be like the Master Chief's burrito chili con carne. I don't know.
There it is, folks. It's confirmed. No, but that actually sounds good because the only times I've had chili con carne is in school because it's like one of the standard meals we have at school. And it was always like really fucking thin, like watery, and we got it with rice, and the rice was like, this dry rice that shouldn't be eaten, you feel.
100%.
So yeah, that's my experience with it, but I'm sure it's a lot better. So correction, we do have chili, just not Chief's chili, not the real kind. Well, we don't even have it. We stole it from, I guess, Mexico or something. But still.
Have either of you like actually tried doing anything with the recipe yet?
not yet, actually. I was gonna experiment.
Because we're supposed to be doing it this week, aren't we?
Oh god.
Yeah, I was gonna experiment with it this week just to make sure I can get it right.
Yeah.
I have nightmares about it. Wait, how long is it gonna cook? Like, is it gonna take an entire day to like 2 days?
It's kind of like a day before thing.
Okay.
From
It's not too bad.
if I'm understanding it correctly, it's like you prepare everything the day before because you're supposed to like refrigerate it like overnight, and then I guess you could have it cold, or you're supposed to reheat it. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure there's
I think you
something involved with like, you leave it for a night, so I guess maybe it sets or something. I'm not actually sure. I'm gonna have to try again and fuck it up again for when we actually review the real thing. So that should be really interesting. But
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to make it the night before.
yeah, the plan is to do it the day. I mean, I have to because I'm not fucking making it at 4 a.m. But yeah,
do it.
please no.
You don't go up early enough. We think you should step up your.
Oh, I go up early enough. The thing is, I go to bed at like 5.
Oh yeah, there's.
Yeah, I go late into the early, so I'm on like the other half where the clock resets. And I've been trying to get out of that because I've started uni now. But songwriting just kind of happens when it happens, and I sort of just impulsively sort of go with it out of fear that I'll forget an idea, or I might have, I'll have an idea and I'm like, well, maybe this is like something really, really good, and I'm worried I'll like forget it if I just leave it alone. So I always feel an impulse that whenever I have music ideas, I almost always try to work on them immediately, or I'll make some really just awful recordings that I hope never get released in bootleg someday, because Jesus, they're bad when I hum them into my phone. But music and stuff keeps me up more than is probably healthy. Otherwise, I would try to maintain like a healthy sleep schedule if I could help it.
Yeah, why is it you always write songs in the middle of the night? Like, that's the only time I can't write a song like in the middle of the day when the sun is up. It has to be like.
It's not just me then.
No, it's me. Yeah, I always write all my songs like at least after 12 Now we should have had the international clock right now.
Right?
But,
Yeah.
after midnight. I usually write after midnight. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know
curious
what it
what
is.
your guys kind of... Because do you guys find you have certain, I guess, times of the day where you're most productive with kind of music stuff? Because for me, it's definitely like sort of 7 p.m. into like 2 a.m., like late evening for me is where I seem to be the most kind of like energized to actually work on stuff and then actually get shit done if I have a project open.
I think I'm similar. Like, yeah, probably like 8 o'clock and forward. In the evening, and into the night. That's when I write music. But like when I work on like my artwork and stuff, that's an entirely different thing. Because my artwork is even though I really enjoy it, that feels more like work, which is probably because that's kind of my work right now. With the channel and all that.
Right.
So that's something I want to do. Like, I want to get up early in the morning, and I want to get my smoothie, and I want to work on it. I usually listen to a lot of music, but then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I'm either gonna play Warzone with my friends, or I'm gonna write a song. That's like my way of being relaxed, quote unquote. So that's like, because I never work in the evening or at night, because I feel like that's my time to just be me and do whatever I want. While in the beginning of the day, that's when I do the work.
Do you suppose that maybe that has something to do with like the fact that kind of the visual art stuff is more like, it's not necessarily people, it's work that other people are depending on, but that's kind of the actively like the things you actually need to get done sort of thing earlier in the day, and it either affects your channel or that kind of thing, or you are doing like commissions for other people and stuff, whereas the evening is more kind of like it's your time where you can work on your own projects, and they're not really
Exactly.
they're not like due the next week or anything.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like I've always been kind of, now I sound like a fucking wonder child, which I'm not, but I've always been kind of stuck between like music and art. Like, what do I want to do? So I kind of do both. But I've realized, I think I feel better about doing art as a job while I'm doing music as a hobby, because I just hate forcing out music.
Well, art
That's
is way
just-
more sustainable as well, and you're also making things that people aren't. Like, music inherently is a time-based media, right? So, like, you're having to make something where you keep people interested or whatever for, like, a length of time for the duration of the song. Otherwise, it's kind of not really doing its job. Whereas visual art, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
visual art is kind of, you could argue it's the same thing depending on how people choose to look into it. But if people just look at visual art for, like, a few seconds, it can still kind of have done its job, so to speak.
Yeah. Like, if you compare like an artist working on a game versus someone making a soundtrack for a game. A soundtrack is much more like, oh, okay, people are actually gonna like listen to this and dive deep into it, while no one's gonna stop and look at like a table someone modeled in a game. So art is more like, I guess it's more quantity in a way. More than quality sometimes, while music is mostly often just quality all the time. I think so. I like not having that pressure, like, oh, I gotta do something freaking incredible. I gotta write a hit song every day. I just don't want to do that.
That is super stressful. Yeah.
So Alyx, what's your process of working on that kind of stuff?
Usually what I find to be less training for me is, well, I can't talk about it much, but the production stuff I do at this unnamed studio that I'm working at right now. I can't talk too much about it, like I said.
Industries? Wow.
But-
Fun.
No.
Definitely not. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that I find, I guess, easier to do is production stuff, from like mixing, giving feedback, posing ideas, that sort of thing. Where I'm not really songwriting, but I am involved in the process of making the actual song.
Yeah.
There's also the commission work that I take on as often as I can in between all of that stuff.
Yes.
It's usually 1, 2, or 3 things that I have going on simultaneously. and typically they don't have a deadline. The deadline makes it, or well, it has an impact on how much like I put into the song, plus the whatever the contents of the song are actually going to be. So like if it's a Halo fan song, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this done as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I'm getting this done as soon as possible. But if it's like a one-off thing or a short film, I treat it more like work, I guess. I can get myself invested into it, but I usually follow a lot more like theory stuff and practice ideas that always work.
Yeah.
You know, something to just like not to undermine it, but something to grind
Yeah.
through and get done.
So can deadlines be beneficial to you, or does it mostly just affect you negatively?
For me, they're definitely beneficial
Okay.
because it sort of gives me, that sort of pressure to get me actually like sitting in my office and focusing, instead of just like sitting around all day thinking about working on it
Yeah.
and what I can do in this part or what sort of weird chord progression can I do here? Should I change the time signature to make it sound a bit more chaotic or whatever? I have less time to think about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I can say without deadlines, I never would have fucking actually got any of my music released that went commercially out on Spotify, because all 3 songs that are currently on those kind of platforms, they were all trying to meet certain dates, and coincidentally, I ended up rushing all of 3 of them at the 11th hour to get them ready, and I'm not actually happy with how they turned out, which is something I need to work on, but I think
did.
deadlines can make a difference in the right scenario. The thing is, there's so many other factors at play with kind of anything. It's never really any one thing that can influence or make or break something. It's kind of just how it all comes together, I think.
Neo, I think, to be honest, if you're always happy with your work 100% of the time, you're never going to get anything done. Nobody's ever going to see or hear what you're listening to.
That is true.
That's true.
However, if I record demo vocals for a song I'm working on, where maybe I sing, I get, I don't know, maybe up to the second verse is what I record, when it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm doing it like 8 at night some other day. It's kind of like dismissively, I'm just like, laying it down so it's down. And I'm like, hey, this sounds really cool. And then I re-record the whole thing because I like consistency, and probably because I'm unprofessional as fuck, it's often really obvious when I've recorded different vocals on different days if they're all in the same track. So I like to completely redo everything when I do a new session. It kind of bugs me when the new session is complete, but kind of sounds worse than earlier versions that I did. But then if I comp them together, that kind of has its own problem. I mean, maybe it's kind of, maybe it's the whole thing where, creators kind of see a lot more issues with their own work that other people don't necessarily pick out. And I'm just looking too much into it. But I'm still aware it's there, and that just permanently just bugs the shit out of me.
That is like the artist curse or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like you're always going to pick out all the tiny things that nobody else is ever going to know about unless you point them out specifically.
Well, it's like the spectrum question is, where does it end where it's just in your head and then other people notice it, when it seems like it seems like a thing where I'm like, okay, anybody that's not tone deaf will probably actually notice that if they pay attention. So then it's like, well, where do you draw the line where it's actually just kind of like, okay, you're just being you're just looking way too much into it, versus, no, people could actually pick up on this, but then maybe they don't care. I don't know. It's always it's always kind of a challenge, because I know that eventually you just have to call it done.
Yeah.
But it's like, when do I decide is right to do it? Like, I know I have to do it eventually, but it doesn't mean I still don't want to make it the best it can possibly be.
Yeah. And then there's always that, like, when you've, for example, like, released a song, like, and you, like, 3 years later, you look back at it, and you're like, this wasn't even good. Like, why did no one tell me this wasn't good?
I get that all the time.
Yeah, and you're like, well, I guess they didn't know how good you would become too, I guess. Like, you always improve, but there's always that. That's also a curse.
Yeah.
It's not even just necessarily that, but I think that, as artists, and this kind of applies to digital art. I think we might have talked about this on the podcast before at some point, but I think that, as a creative, you're always moving, even if it's not necessarily, it's maybe not the best way to put it, but even if you're not necessarily moving forward, you might still be moving kind of horizontally in another direction. You're never moving back, but like you're always moving in some capacity. And I think it's natural that creatives, not only their skills, but just their tastes and their influence, the things that influence the way they do things just naturally change over time because we grow as people and we move. And, even if my skills never improved for like 3 years with music, even though, dear God, I hope they did, it is objective that the music I make now is completely different from what I would have made 3 years ago. I think even if my skills were identical back then compared to now, I just think that'd be different.
Yeah.
Because I'm a different person than I was 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like someone, like I'm not saying you make bad music now, but maybe
Thanks,
there's someone out there who thinks your earlier works were better. There's always maybe someone likes the stuff you did for like a while ago and you don't like that anymore. But someone else,
I think that is
even more than what you do now.
I think that is way more common than people probably expect.
Yeah, probably. Like all the big bands and artists. And
yeah, there's so many things where I'm fans of their earlier work, even though, you could argue that they're more experienced as time has gone on. So from a technical level, their later work is probably better.
Yeah.
But, taste is always subjective as well. So that's just kind of inherently just what it is, I guess.
And to some people, being a lot more refined is just selling out for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, assuming that's not the case when I talk about all this stuff, because obviously things like that happen too. But from a purely kind of creative standpoint, I think that's always kind of a really interesting phenomenon. That's also why I'm an advocate of, when you're a creative and you're making things, you should never, I guess it's kind of multi-layered. The first thing I was going to say is you should never dismiss kind of, if you have like a one-off idea or, you're doing like a kind of a small sketch or something, even if it seems like stupid in the moment, you should never dismiss it. It is okay to get it down, put it aside, and come back to it at some unknown time in the future, because you might be surprised how often you might reflect or listen back on older ideas, or you're just kind of listening through like a folder of your old shit, and you might get new inspiration for something that you never would have thought of doing with it at the time. If you just throw stuff away, you'll never actually have the opportunity to reflect on things. It is always important to recognize that at any given time, you might look back on something you've done, and inadvertently, you'll have a completely new perspective on it, and that could completely change the context of how you feel about something. The second thing I was going to say is, same thing kind of applies with stuff you've already done, like we were just talking about. If you've made music years back in the future, I think it is important in learning how to grow and develop as a creative that you hold on to that stuff, because it always gives you a reference of like a kind of reference point of where you are now relative to back then. And it's kind of, I think it's nice to have the ability to kind of listen or look back on what you've done. And I think it sort of gives like a really lovely sense of context, not only in just how your skills have developed, but like I was saying, how your tastes or you as a person might have changed aside from, literal ability to make something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can definitely, like, literally see that in Wernissage's work, especially compared to, what was it, like, a little over a year ago? 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, you mean when
he started doing the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was it? It was probably 2 years ago soon, in the summer, I think. Something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, time flies.
Indeed.
It really does.
All the shading work, the sorts of ideas you have, especially now that Halo Infinite's out and you've been able to better see the current UNSC and banished aesthetic and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking about the banished stuff, it was kind of fun. I've gotten a few comments on my expanding the arsenal for the banished video, which I did like like way before we even saw the Banished Arsenal and all that. I didn't nail their look at all. It doesn't look anything like the games, but still, I did manage to predict the what's it called, the big gun skewer.
The skewer, yeah.
Like
nice.
a lot of people commented like, "Oh, he predicted the skewer." It wasn't that complicated, but I predicted a like sniper-esque thing that shoots a projectile, which doesn't travel as fast as a sniper, but kind of fast, and it's quite destructive and all that.
A giant spike projected by gravity or something.
Yeah, exactly, something like that, which is fun. But yeah, no, I think. I guess that's also a part of being an artist, either if it's music or art. You're never really happy with the stuff you make, but I do feel I'm happy you say that, because I do feel I have improved when I look at like my first helmet redesign videos. They look awful now. For some reason, they're like my most liked videos, while the more recent one aren't as liked, but the new ones do look a lot better, which I'm happy. So there's been some improvement, which I'm happy about. So I think it's important you just stop, you just like remind yourself sometimes that like you're good, okay? You're better than you were
100%.
for like a year ago. That's fine. That's all. Like, as long as you feel like you're improving, who cares if you're the best in your area of work? As long as you feel like you're improving, I think that's the most important thing.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, talking about like creative stuff and deadlines and all that, I wanted to bring up kind of what's everyone's backstory for like where they are now and their studies, and kind of how they ended up where we are and all that.
Like doing what we're doing currently.
Doing what we're doing, why we're here, what we tried to do, what failed, what succeeded. It sounds like a fucking like draw my life.
Hell
Doesn't
yeah.
have to be 20 minutes long, but
Well, this will have to suffice because I can't draw for shit. So
yeah.
maybe an animator wants to animate it, but I can't do that.
Good thing this is only like audio.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
something. Thank God.
And Zacarra can just make it make sense.
Yeah. Zacarra will fix it. Like me drinking this smoothie.
Indeed.
She can just fix that in post.
Yes.
See, that's what I make them think. And then I just leave it in there. So, have fun clipping that audio. So, do what you will with that.
Someone else should probably go first because I'm worried I'll talk too much.
Since I guess we'll go by alphabetical order.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, you know what that means. I'm last and you're first. So Alyx,
Got him.
draw your life.
Okay. Thinking back on it now, it almost feels like doing stuff with music, especially video game music, was always somewhat natural. I mean, music's always been a gigantic part of my life. I remember singing along to songs in the car on my way to kindergarten or whatever. My grandfather had this old Casio keyboard that I would practice on a lot. It would like light up the keys and stuff, and I would follow it and sort of like improvise terribly over it, acting like I knew what I was doing. And that went on for a while. In high school, when I got to high school, there was a theory course that I somehow ended up in. And I remember going into that classroom, there were like these giant piano computer setup type things, where it was supposed to be some sort of recording studio, of all things. And I remember like wanting to actually hop behind those keyboards, but you couldn't if you were not in the piano course. So I finished the theory course, didn't take away much from it, and then ended up in the piano course, where I remember I would just goof off learning as much as I could from all of these, like, I think it was called synthesizer or something, where you could just follow the notes lighting
Synthesia?
up on the screen.
Wait. Synthesia.
Whatever
it's
called.
it's
Yeah,
like the MIDI
Synthesia.
Guitar Hero, but it's like keyboard thing, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I know how to play the Skyrim theme on piano.
That's where it all started with the piano.
Yeah, it did kind of start with the piano.
Okay.
which funnily enough is really prevalent in like most of what I write and arrange. In high school, I also took a bit of guitar. Yeah, I took guitar for a couple years, I think it was. No, it was just 1 year. It was just 1 year. And then I went off to college. I went to college studying business, more specifically business administration. Not really out of something I wanted to do, but more of something that I felt would be beneficial to as many options as possible in life paths. Like, no matter what I do, I would have something to sort of fall back on. I finished my business administration degree, which was a 2-year degree, but then I kept going. During that time, I also started doing this whole music thing. Late Night Gaming gave me an old laptop of his, which I still use for my work, by the way.
That's awesome.
I have all this hardware that I also accumulated over time, and eventually, once I got to my third year of college, I was having to balance all sorts of stuff that I had going on online in addition to full-time college, and that's when I made the decision not too long ago. Hey, I'm going to focus on my work, my commissions, and all the other stuff I have going on, because that is both more beneficial to other people, and it's beneficial to my own well-being and where I want to be in the next 5 years or whatever. And that's where I am now.
Hell
That's
yeah.
where it is. Hell yeah. The iconic journey. The great journey. So
Indeed.
Skimmed over a lot of specifics and details, but that's the gist of it.
yeah. No, it's always fun to hear like how, like, especially with music, like everyone's first experience, because it's always so different. Like how what instrument was first and how it kind of got introduced to you, which so yeah, synthesizer.
I put a link to it in crew chat.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
It was called Synthesia. I wasn't sure if I was
Synthesia.
remembering it correctly because I haven't interacted with it for like over a decade. But yeah, it's still the software I remember, and it is functionally. It is essentially just Guitar Hero in the sense that, it has like the visualization of like the keys and sort of it plays back MIDI files and
is
stuff.
it-
But it's also a really good
okay.
training tool because you can connect up a MIDI controller to it, and then you can either play along with it, or there's like mini games where it tracks your score based on how accurately you can play against the sequence, or you can set it up so. Kind of like Guitar Hero, it only plays notes that you play if they're the correct notes. It's really configurable.
Yeah.
It's a great tool for getting into music, I think, because it gives you that more visual approach that is, I think, easier to pick up if you aren't someone that sort of gravitates naturally or has challenges with kind of sheet music-based representation like I did. So Synthesia for me was really, I think, probably made a difference in me kind of starting out with music, but then sticking with it as well.
Yeah. So what's where did it all begin? I'm just kidding.
I might
yeah,
fast track it a
exactly.
little bit because I feel like I always feel really bad that I like ramble on for too long. So I'll kind of like short
We
track
like to
it
ramble.
because I think if I short track it, it will be about the same length as what Alyx brought up.
Yeah. No. I think that was a good length. What Alyx said.
Yeah.
As long as you can keep it kind of like that.
So music's always kind of it's always kind of like been around in things. Like I know I grew up with the first two games I remember playing as a kid, like properly, was the Gearbox version of Halo and Motocross Madness 2, which my dad had on his PC. When I was a kid, about 2 or 3, we had a PS1, and I distinctly remember we had Gran Turismo 2, which I couldn't play because I was like 2 or 3. But I remember, you'd have the main menu with like the city overview and also just the really fucking just like jazzy as shit music. So from playing games at an early age, I knew immediately, like, I don't know how to describe it. as a 2 or 3 year old, or whatever. But as a kid, I've always been like, I want to make things that make people feel the same way I feel when I listen to these games. Ultimately, that's what it was for me. My dad was also an artist back in his day, and while I was growing up as a really early kid, I don't think I actually ever sort of was in the same room as anything he was working on. But I remember when I was about 9 or 10, my parents started a record store. My mother worked for Taft, which was like an arts festival thing. So she engaged with a lot of music. Before the record store, my dad worked at a radio station where he was kind of like just a producer on there. And so I grew up kind of, after schools, I'd like hang out at the record store and stuff. And my dad also, around that time, he started building up a studio and kind of doing his own stuff as well, both recording his own demos, kind of like I do now, and not fucking releasing anything, but also doing actual commission work for clients. So I kind of got to grow up with a lot of sound, and my parents are kind of, I guess, the alternate rock kind of culture. So it was always a lot of music in the household, even though my parents don't really actively play anymore. So music always did a big part. In primary school, I started gravitating towards like just shutting myself into the school assembly hall and just like jamming on the piano and figuring out how to like play stuff by ear. When I was a kid, I was really good at just, I guess, hearing something and then just copying it pretty much. So piano for me in some capacity was something that I like really strongly got towards to. And then towards the end of primary school, my parents paid for me to get some piano lessons, so I did that for a few years. And I had a really, really great teacher. He was a cool guy, and he also had a synthesizer, so that was how I found out about 80s synths and stuff, because he had this like old Roland JX3P that occasionally he'd like let me play, and like had some busted keys. At the time I didn't really know about MIDI, so I didn't know how to like hook it up to anything like computers or anything. But I remember just like, I was like, this sounds so cool. It's so like the ability that you just have a device, but you can shape it to like make your own sounds was like so just like unreal to me.
So you learned that like at a young age?
I kind of fast tracked it because I the whole ramble thing. But at this point, I'd be about 11 or 12.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty. It's really early.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of happened, and I started getting into piano and stuff, which is where I started actually learning a bit of like theory and, proper song stuff and how to properly play the piano, scales and all that kind of stuff. I've always been very undisciplined, so the piano lessons went on for a while, but it started to go more towards instead of actually learning theory and other songs, it was more I kind of just was doing my own thing. And the teacher I had, I think he's one of the best people I've met in my life, and I'm really glad I got lessons with him. He kind of just like went with me in what I was doing, I think. So I think in terms of actual development, I kind of just like went horizontal for quite a while instead of actually improving. But I think it helped me kind of like figure out more what I actually wanted to do. And as I've grown up, I find it really interesting because, I grew up and I knew about the whole music thing, and sort of throughout the end of primary school, when I got way, way more into Halo and that kind of stuff, I sort of kind of got really interested in like game development as well, which kind of still has a part with me. In high school, I was a really big fan of creative writing. I hated computer science because programming bored me, which is really funny because now I'm very bad at it, but I love the feeling you get when you program something and it finally works. Like you've figured out the last piece of a puzzle, and the reward of building something like that is really attractive to me. But in high school, I kind of got more interested in a little bit of game dev and sort of did like level design and some mods and stuff like that. But towards the last 2 years of high school, I discovered I kind of discovered like hair metal and like proper rock music, and sort of rediscovered, I guess, kind of like 80s music, that like synth pop, new wave, all that stuff. So I got really into that, and I started teaching myself guitar. And then it's still kind of been like fluctuating and all over the place, but I always found that I very much liked kind of doing my own thing, but I couldn't grasp why exactly. I knew I liked doing my own stuff, but I didn't actually like understand specifically what it was that attracted me to that. Since high school and all that kind of stuff, I've always worked on music. I went to university in 2019 to do composition and sonic arts. The uni I went to was more, or I want to say, orchestral and like traditional composition focused. Not
So that
really
kinda
having a.
clashed with 80s.
It's not even that. Well, kinda, but I think that's more of a coincidence. But because I've always kind of had a challenge with actually picking up theory, and which is partly my own fault, because I'm just unfucking disciplined. But I've always struggled to kind of, actually make myself go through more of that kind of stuff. So I know enough theory to like make music and stuff now. Like, it's all good. Sheet music though, cannot do it. Sorry. If you give me 10 minutes and it's in C major, I can probably memorize it, but then I'd be playing it from my head. I can't sight read and play at the same time. It doesn't
Well,
work
that's
for
more
me.
than me, at least.
Yeah. But when I was at uni, I found not only was there this kind of like complex thing where it felt like everybody else in the room was a lot smarter than me and just talking about concepts I didn't understand, which is kind of on me because I never really went through the theory. Something about studying music to the point where it becomes almost like an objective science of what makes things good or not good almost killed the magic of music for me. I don't know exactly what it was, but I found that as soon as it comes to, a formula or a checklist of like this, and this, and congratulations, you have good music, and then also being strictly, almost completely focused on orchestral-based stuff, I found I just extremely did not enjoy my time there. I'm not, everyone's different, and so I think it just didn't work for me. I don't think by any means it was a bad course or, bad tutors or anything. It's one of the best universities as far as I know around, but it felt like I wasn't really compatible with how things were being, sort of what the goals were there, I think. And so since that point, in terms of actual kind of, I guess, full-on composition, I've kind of regressed back a bit. And for a couple of years, I think more recently, for a couple of years, I've been trying to figure out, like, what do I actually want to do? I did commissions for a couple of years, and I still do commissions for friends now, but I found that not only is it extremely fucking stressful, especially if you're scoring films, and it hasn't been film locked, which means that, the timing of the scenes is still subject to change while you're writing music to the timing of the scenes, which is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And I never want to do that again unless I get paid really well for it, because that was kind of a nightmare. I found I very much just prefer just kind of being able to just go and do my own thing as opposed to, making deliverables for other people. I've picked up another interest in game audio specifically, but I've figured out over the last 2 or 3 years that what I really want to do is just be able to do my own thing. I've started to understand, I guess, along my path, that music to me is so important as a form of self-expression and being a tool I can use to just just connect with people in the way that I feel like doing things.
Yeah.
And, working the way that, and enjoying and making music in the way that it makes me feel, and I don't know, whatever I seem to take from it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I feel too. Like when it comes to art, which is the only area where I have done commissions. I still do them like once in a while, but I really feel the same as you. Like when it's something like creative or artistic, you kind of want to do what you want to do. Like what you want what's in your head to be put into a paper or into a song or something. So it's always weird when people ask of something they want in an artwork where I feel like that doesn't make any sense. But I got to do it because it's a job. It's their like they pay for it. Obviously, I'm gonna do it. But it's always I definitely
like they obviously want your style, but ultimately you're catering to them. It's their product that you're building, not the other way around.
So it kind of clashes. Like, okay, is this my brainchild or is it like a Frankenstein thing? Which it's worth it for the money, I guess, but it's also it's not my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I still do commissions for friends and stuff, because commissions are great, but I found I just don't think I found I don't think I'm quite compatible with the way I think, or maybe the way I do things, or whatever. It just didn't seem to fit to, if my primary focus was making products for other people, it just didn't seem to really like gel, or it became too stressful for just a myriad of reasons that I was just like, I don't want to do this. It just stresses me out way more than it should. Yeah. So I'm kind of in this weird space where it's like, I guess by technicality, it probably makes me a bit more of a hobbyist, but I do obviously want to kind of, go through as like a commercial artist if I can do it. But then the game audio thing has actually been kind of a constant. So that's sort of where I get to, get interested and spend more time actively involved in kind of a more constructive and creative and technical aspect of just sound, which I find fascinating. But then actual, the whole sort of commercial music and the new wave stuff I do is very much like from the heart. That's me telling stories and just, imbuing everything I loved about music and creative writing and all of it. I've been surprised, actually, how much I went from mainly instrumental stuff to actual, like, songwriting, kind of pop music, that kind of stuff. I don't even know why I find it so attractive, but writing lyrics and singing is actually one of my favorite parts of the music I make now, which I never would have expected when I was growing up. But for some reason, there's something about the fact that it's kind of the space where I get to be myself and I get to communicate to other people through the things I make. And, people get to take it in, and maybe they'll take it at face value and they'll just think it sounds cool, or, maybe they'll listen to or read my lyrics or, the singing, they'll interpret something from that, or it might make them think, or it might make them feel. There's something about that which I just love so much, and for some reason, that just resonates with me so strongly. So that's, ideally what I'd like to pursue.
Hell yeah. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah, sorry, I went on a bit long there, but
no, I think it was good. I think it's good. I think we got a good understanding of your life and where you are now, where you started and where you are now.
I might be fucking stupid, but I have identity. That's the way I think about it.
Maybe, yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I almost feel like the odd one out, being the only person that's not a singer-songwriter in here.
Oh yeah, well, you don't sing at
different
all,
strokes for different folks, like...
Yeah, I know.
I also think that kind of like singer-songwriting is like entirely its own separate thing from like a lot of other different kinds of music, because maybe Wern can relate, but there's almost a completely different like approach and like thought form as to how you do that kind of stuff, as opposed to like instrumental music.
Oh yeah.
I just sing through my piano arpeggios.
Yeah, like I would love to have your ability, Alyx. Like how you make something sound interesting, over time, without actually like having a voice and having
100%. Because I feel like I suck at that like so hard.
Yeah, because how do I entertain the listener that much without bringing in some lyrics and stuff?
So my whole process is I try to capture the listener with the vocals and the lyrics, and then everything else is kind of built around that to support it. Yeah, and not the other way around. Which is what I find so fascinating about stuff like Halo and that.
I'm gonna get to that, like my experience with singing and all that, because it's not as obvious as you might think. But yeah, here goes my draw my life.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna see if I can keep it short too. But it all started when I was born. No, but I
Oh my goodness.
the day I was born, 11th of April, 1999. I came out of no, but I guess my first real interest was actual painting, which is probably not a surprise to a lot of people. But I think it was when I started watching Spider-Man and stuff. Like, I got some comics, and then I heard, like, oh, there's actually movies. Because it was, like, 2004. So, Spider-Man 2 had just come out. So, obviously, I became, like, the biggest Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fan there is. And I started painting a lot of Spider-Man, which I think is why I got so interested in painting, like, you know, shading and stuff. I feel like that was what my interest was, like, regarding art, like making something feel alive and three-dimensional and stuff. So it all started with Spider-Man, and then I started playing Halo a little bit too young. I think I was like 3 or 4.
Okay, so singer-songwriters have that in common, I guess.
Me too, though.
yeah, I guess. So that's what it is. Every single singer-songwriter.
That's where it all goes wrong.
Yeah, shit. No, but we played. Me and my brother played at a friend's house, and we got our own Xbox, Halo CE, and Halo 2. So there was a lot of Spider-Man in Halo, which there still is in my life. But so that's kind of what brought me into the more creative stuff. Like Spider-Man and all that was more for the art, while Halo was actually more for the music in the beginning. But I did always like remember Halo because it was so iconic, you know, the designs and stuff. I just didn't really understand why yet. But then after playing a bunch of other shooters, I was like, okay, there's something unique about Halo. But yeah, like I never like sang at all. I didn't want to sing for anyone up until I was like 15, I think. I didn't sing in front of.
That's surprising.
Yeah, because I always hated my voice, and I always had like a, well, not always, but when I got older, I had a kind of a low voice, and like, which I
Same.
still do. Yeah,
Actually, the
so-
same.
Yeah, cause so it always sounded like weird and like too thick or something when I tried to sing. So I didn't even do it by myself. But then my dad got a guitar for his birthday, like I think when I was 12 or 13, I think it was. And he actually just gave me the guitar and was like, you have quite long fingers, you should probably play guitar. I was like, no, I can't, it's too late, I'm like 13. But then I just started playing. I learned one song, and then I learned another. And then I just started like playing a bunch of my favorite songs. And after a while I got bored, and I was like, okay, what if I write my own stuff? And, you know, I mixed it all together and made my own chord progressions. And yeah, then I tried to write some songs. I remember I had like a notes document on my PC. And it was like hidden, like it was called like something Minecraft. So, you know, people would think it was like it was like part of the Minecraft folder. But in that text document, there was my my lyrics and stuff, because I didn't want anyone to see it. Maybe I still have that.
Actual
I don't know.
same.
Yeah. It's all about playing Halo on year 3.
Jesus
No,
Christ.
Yeah. So I kind of hid that for a while, but then I think I just got restless. Like I felt like I wanted to produce my music, because it just sounded so much fun. So I started recording songs, and then I posted them on SoundCloud, but I only told my closest friends. But after like a few months, it came out somehow. People all around me found out, and then I kind of like, yeah, I guess a few years went by, and like I guess it was like 16 when I had my first gig, which was terrifying. But yeah, and after that I I started playing in a band and stuff. We played some music, as you do in a band, and at the time I was also studying art in school. So I was both, art was more of like something I did because I had to, while music was the shit. I was in a band. It was so cool. It was like a boy band almost.
Oh my goodness.
Well, not a boy. We were all boys, but we played like I guess you could call it indie pop rock. The usual stuff. But yeah. But then I started studying at university, and I studied like it was like a mixture of art and marketing. But there was a lot of marketing, more than I thought. So like 1 year into my studies, I was like, holy shit, I'm unhappy. What am I doing here? Yeah, and we had like a...
Oh, I know what that
This is what we all have in common.
Yes. And we had we had a lot of programming too, which I wasn't a huge fan of, even though I think I kind of nailed it in the beginning, but then I kind of lost interest. But I started making a Halo game. Like I made a real cute 2-dimensional Master Chief. It's up on my Instagram. But yeah, that's where it all started, because I made a Halo minigame. Well, I tried. I didn't succeed. But I made some Elites and Master Chief, like a 2-dimensional Master Chief, real cute. And I posted it on my Instagram, Wernissage, which is like a pun of my last name and the word for an art exhibition. And I had like 20 followers, because it was like just like my art. I just shit posted art. Then I posted that, and I tagged this thing called Halo Spotlight, and it got featured on Halo Waypoint. So I got some international followers. Yeah, so you can see that happen in real time, I guess you could say, on Instagram. Like, oh, okay, I'm international now. I'm gonna post all my stuff in English, and I'm gonna hashtag like 50 different Halo tags. So I started doing that.
I mean, technically, all of us are international business people.
Wow, when you put it that way.
Multiculturalist. I'm not a business person. I don't know fucking shit about what I'm doing. I probably need a manager. I need a manager and a marketer and a promoter. I need everybody, man. But yeah,
me too. Just let me know if you find someone.
I will.
But yeah, my story is almost finished. You know the rest. I started making some art, and then I made some evolution of helmets stuff, and then I wanted to make that into a video, so I made that into a video, and I got some views. And I just gotta like thank my Instagram. Like, holy shit, that's the only reason why I'm here today, and like why I got a following on YouTube, because that gave me like at least a start. Like, I had a few hundred followers from my Instagram, which is awesome. I didn't have to start from scratch.
I think it's crazy how much, a lot of, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I just mean it's fascinating how many sort of followings can get just kickstarted by just a single thing happening at the right time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like
That's usually what it is anyway.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. It's just like the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was kind of like, I wouldn't have never done this if I weren't burnt out on my studies. So I dropped out of the university because I was like, I'm not happy. I literally built a cardboard Master Chief suit for like a month, because I guess I was just bored. I was like, I want to do something. So I did that, and I started painting and stuff. So yeah, that's really what got me into it. Like, I realized, okay, I don't want to do all this crap because it's expected of me. I want to do like art and stuff, the stuff I like, and let's just see what comes of it. And I was lucky with my Instagram stuff, and I was lucky enough to have that head start on YouTube. And then I posted my redesigning UNSC weapons video, which got a bunch of views, and I got like it's insane. Like, I haven't been growing very much after that, but I think I've talked about this before, but I grew like, I think I got like 5,000 subs on in like a few weeks. Like 2 weeks.
That's not insignificant by any means.
Yeah, so that was insane. But then something just kind of grew for a while, and and here we are, I guess. and Noah contacted me about the podcast, the Not a Halo podcast. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it, brother. And now here we are. He's fired from the podcast, and I'm the host.
Yeah, he's fucking gone. Thanks,
Yeah.
Noah. Jesus.
Hell yeah, finally.
Going on vacation.
Is this a coup d'etat?
Nah.
Coup-
Nah,
what's
I
that?
wouldn't dare mutiny. I love Noah.
What's I'm not cultured. What's coup d'etat?
It's like an uprising against an order,
The establishment.
whatever the
Oh.
kind of like normed establishment or government or
Oh, isn't there like a pirate term for that? What is it?
mutiny.
You mean, yeah.
Yeah. We just started on podcast, now,
Hell yeah.
basically. Hell yeah. Okay. So, as a wise man once said, I'm gonna read the outro.
Woo.
Let's see if I can do this
rooting for
as
you.
well. Thank you. Thank you all for joining me today. Not a Halo podcast is a creation of Pseudofusion Productions, free of any funding. If you'd like to support us, please share the podcast with someone you love, and please support the crew members, Alyx and Neo, and definitely not Noah of the channel TravellingHalo, on their respective platforms listed in the description. If you'd like to see us grow even further, you can support Pseudofusion on Patreon, where you can get ad-free versions of this show the Friday before release. Thank you all for your support. I'm Wernissage, and this is not a podcast.
Whoa. I think I like that outro better.
Thank you. I should do that going forward. That's a wrap, boys.